Hey guys, Mustang here bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today with the latest hint that has been revealed for the Global Dokkan campaign, it seems very much that things have changed, and rather than being almost seemingly very clear from what we'd seen so far that all signs pointed towards Daima, we are now going to be getting some very large involvement from the future saga, what with the hint having the Zamasu voice line at the end, which is the line before him and Goku Black fuse into Fusion Zamasu. As I said in the video I made earlier, reporting on the actual news, we don't know whether that means that the celebration is just going to be fully Future Saga, whether it's going to combine other things. There is the possibility of the theme just being like team battle or cooperation, but either way we know that a Zamasu is involved, which means when it comes to the EZAs and Super EZAs of the celebration, there are going to be a bunch of potential Future Saga characters that we will see get these upgrades, right? And some of them have been in line for theirs for quite some time, and are probably way more likely than others, but I guess it all depends on what exactly they want to do, whether the EZAs will also go more in line with what the actual overall theme of the celebration is, or whether they will focus on Future Saga, because we are getting, you would assume, at least one new version of Zamasu in some way, shape or form. So shout out to Masaka, always posts these updated images. This is the characters from the last couple of years that still need their EZAs. Now it's interesting to note that the oldest TURs that still need EZAs, and even the LR, the Gohan there as well, from 2020, none of these guys are Future Saga, or really fit into like the team battle. I guess you could argue Frieza, right, because the Universe Survival Saga, like TOP, is a team-based tournament. It's funny, so like the oldest EZAs are probably not relevant for a Future Saga themed thing, but when we look at the 2021 units, the first few, again, not so much. The Int, Goku and Piccolo very much fit the team battle sort of thing, and I even mentioned, right, that that could be an interesting countdown EZA after we saw the original Goku and Piccolo images for that team battle challenge event. But then we get down towards the end of 2021 and you can see 3 units there that still require EZAs: AGL Dokkan Fest Trunks, the Tech Dokkan Fest 17 and 18, and then the Yellow Coin LR Future Gohan and Trunks. Now the interesting thing about them, like being the oldest sort of Future Saga characters that need an EZA, is that whilst they are on the Future Saga category, they of course are not related to the actual like Future Trunks arc, the actual Zamasu and Goku Black Dragon Ball Super Future arc, right? These guys are all from the either Future Androids, or obviously Trunks is the Trunks that comes back from the future and defeats Frieza. So whilst they are very much on the table, it is interesting to think that like they're not even directly related to the main draw of like the saga, which is going to be the, if it's we're getting a new Zamasu, is the Dragon Ball Super Future. So then we go over to 2022 and you can see as we start to scroll down, like we get to the characters that are the big ticket ones: Vegeta and Trunks and Int Fusion Zamasu, and these are all going to be very, very interesting. So if we take a quick look at some of these guys, that's just for normal EZAs and not Super EZAs. So we will take a look at some of the Super EZA potentials as well. But I mean, this Trunks has been crying out for an EZA, I guess, really ever since release, because even on release, this guy was kind of underwhelming. Very, very strange, like Dokkan releasing a character that at the time in that meta was better untransformed than he was when transforming, which is a shame because his animations are really good. Like his transformation animation is cool, his super attack animation's cool. Like the unit could have been really, really good and really fun to use, but just very oddly designed, especially for the actual time of release and the meta that he released in. So this guy has some really interesting potential. They just need to make his transformed version like significantly better so that you actually want to transform him when you get the opportunity to do so. And remember, even if it's not with this celebration, when we think about characters that are in line for EZAs and look back at some of the characters on that sheet, like Majin Vegeta, Int Majin Vegeta, is the next Saiyan Day unit in line for an EZA. But obviously, one of the big things for him is that there is no really good relevant Trunks in the meta at the moment. So obviously this guy getting an EZA would be really good, because then we would have a new meta relevant Trunks that could be run along with that Majin Vegeta for his intro buff. So this could be very interesting. And then, of course, the tech androids is one that people have been looking forward to for a long time. These guys are still relevant in some events, like things like if you over farm the EZAs to stage 999. I think almost every single team build I see for getting to those last couple of like 100 stages are all using the tech androids, simply for the fact that you get to use like the free Ghost Usher turn, which is obviously very, very powerful. So these guys haven't been relevant in terms of their actual performance in terms of like attack and defense for quite a while, but they are an orb changer with a nuking style passive. And we've seen with characters like Buhan and Texel with their super EZAs that when they really want to, like, they can make these type of characters really, really powerful if they give them a good upgrade. So the tech androids, I think, have the potential to be very, very good if they do get a solid EZA. And then we've got the AGL Future Gohan and Trunks. I think people are really looking forward to this EZA because this unit did get a kind of drew the short straw of releasing really close to the anniversary where the Red Zone was released and just got completely power crept by the Red Zone, which is a real shame. Because these guys obviously have the ability from turn 3, if you're on low HP, you exchange into Gohan. He has the weird mechanic that I don't really like, where you get him out for the first turn and he's very weak defensively, with the whole point being that he's supposed to just die and then revive. But I don't like that because it delays you being able to use the character. It's like you exchange into Future Gohan, you want to use Future Gohan straight away, but his role on that first turn is to die, revive, and then you have to wait because when you revive it goes on to the next rotation. So then you have to play with the next rotation and then you get Future Gohan back. And after he's revived, he's obviously very powerful. And with an EZA, like, this guy could become incredibly strong, like especially post revive. I kind of hope they fix the thing where he just is meant to die straight away. It would be good for him to be like decently strong and then his revival makes him like even stronger, but they do normally keep the same sort of archetype with these EZAs, so I don't imagine that will be the case. I mean, it could be done well. It just is annoying to me when it's like you get your character out, you finally get Future Gohan, you want to use Future Gohan, but then he has to die and then you have to wait an extra turn to actually use him properly because you've revived, right? So interesting. But yeah, these guys, as I said at the beginning, are all from like the Android Future timeline and not the Dragon Ball Super Future Saga timeline. So of course the big one is these guys right here, right? They released in June 2022, so 3 years ago, means they're perfectly in line for an EZA. The Tanabata unit the year before them has EZA'd already. I know a lot of people really want the EZA for Full Power Goku, and he's this Tanabata unit after them. So this is the perfect opportunity for them to actually finally drop the EZA for these guys. And, you know, on release, they were the best unit in the game. So they absolutely have the potential to be in that spot again, which would obviously be very, very good. They're still one of the only like proper bond of parent and child leaders. And these guys just have like such insane potential. I know they're a unit that's kind of locked in slot 1, which those kind of units do get power crept quickly because as bosses start to hit harder and harder, like the unit only really works in slot 1, so there's not much else you can do with them. But like these guys have the potential to be very, very strong, especially if they give them like I know they've got guard, they build up defense and all this kind of stuff. If they give them some like big damage reduction before receiving an attack, I think that's something that would allow them to be a slot 1 unit that ages quite gracefully. Because that's really what we want. Like even now, Dokkan is still in a position where really, really good solid slot 1 units is kind of what every team still really needs. So these guys getting an EZA would obviously be very, very good. And then of course their part 2 LR was the Int LR Zamasu. By the time he released, there wasn't a lot of Zamasu and Goku Black units in the meta that were super, super good. So if you were running him on like these guys sort of future team, he didn't have the ideal link partner necessarily to run like a proper main rotation. So this guy getting an EZA now, if they're going to release a new Zamasu, is obviously perfect, right? Because he's going to have a great link partner. I mean, this guy was really good on release. In his optimal situation, like he was very, very good and very strong. But he just kind of never really got the chance to be in that really good spot in the meta. So really looking forward to this guy's EZA. Obviously him being a unit that starts out as Fusion Zamasu. If the new unit is going to be, I think, the long awaited reversible exchange Goku Black and Zamasu, then obviously even if they do fuse at some point, they're all going to link because of the transformations can still link with the same name. So yeah, I think this could be very good. Like, this guy has the potential, if they do it well, this guy has the potential to become like one of the best LR EZAs in the game in terms of like just yellow coin EZAs with this new Zamasu that will potentially release, whether it's a Zamasu or a Goku Black and Zamasu exchange or whatever it happens to be. Obviously worst case scenario is it's just a standalone Fusion Zamasu and they have the same name. But I think with a celebration like this that keeps being marketed as anniversary level, I think people will be very surprised if it's not a reversible exchange Goku Black and Zamasu. I think that's what they should do, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Now, when it comes to Super EZAs, there's a couple that are in line that I think are very likely. Because remember, when it comes to Super EZAs, we've done most of the 70% mono type leaders. I think the only one left is we've got STR Omega. I think we've still got Physical Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. But around the time that those guys were still releasing, that's when we saw the release of the 50% Extreme and Superclass leads, the AGL Rose and Physical Vegito Blue. And these guys getting a Super EZA would be awesome for this celebration, right? Because Rose's always been meant to be a support that you can just throw on the team and he gives villains a bunch of support. Thanks to his EZA, he greatly raises defense on Super. And we know that with Super EZAs, they don't change the super attack effect or anything like that. So him already having that as his super attack effect is obviously very good, because it means he still has an effective super attack effect, even though it's not going to get updated by the Super EZA. So Rose has a ton of potential. And then of course Physical Vegito Blue is, I think, the only Vegito Blue that has counters. So this guy with a strong Super EZA could be really good. The only thing I do worry a little bit about is obviously you look at the Super EZA for AGL Super Vegito, and he was kind of underwhelming. So is it a case of like a unit with counters is unlikely to get a strong Super EZA? I guess it's hard to say, but this guy with a good Super EZA would obviously be very good. Can launch multiple attacks within the turn. He greatly raises on his super, so his super attack effect is fine with it not changing. This guy could be very good. And then of course we have the type leads that were like 100%, and was it no key or 1 key? We've already had the AGL Kaioken Goku during the Golden Week. There's also this Int Vegeta. It was, yeah, just 100% and no key. And this guy, he has attack and defense raised for 3 turns, which is cool. And then he debuffs extreme enemies, buffs Realm of Gods allies, superclass allies for defense, gets extra attack against extreme class enemies. Pretty bare bones, like plenty of stuff they could add into him here to make him better. And this is the only version of this Vegeta that we have in the game from the fight against Rose, where he has the super attack where he's beating Rose down into the ground. It's probably one of my most wanted like units to get a new version, to get an updated version of that super attack. So I mean, this guy getting a Super EZA would be really cool. I can't imagine that, even if the main part of the theme is going to end up being Future Saga, I can't imagine that we would get a standalone Vegeta as one of the LRs. It's not something that we usually see for a celebration of this magnitude, unless it is like, you know, alongside a Goku and we're getting like the Super Saiyan 4s or something like that. So I don't imagine that we would get this standalone blue Vegeta as an anniversary level character for Global Dokkan campaign, but this guy getting a Super EZA obviously would be very good. I guess it depends who the super character is going to be, whether we are just going to straight up get a new Vegito now, or whether it's something that will be kept until a bit later on, because this guy being a Realm of Gods superclass support is obviously very helpful, giving that extra defense. So they've got a couple of other ones here as well, which I think would be very interesting. Now, bear in mind, we've started to get LR Super EZAs. We got the first free-to-play one being the first Prime Battle LR, which was the Tech Super Saiyan Goku. We've also gotten the first summonable LR Super EZA with the Int Gohan one. One thing I think would be really interesting and fit the theme really well is this Zamasu Goku. right? He's the only version of this Goku in the game, the only version with this name. And when it comes to firsts, like I said, we've got the first free-to-play LR, the first summonable LR. This guy was the first time they did the special anniversary unit that starts off at the beginning of the anniversary as a farmable SSR, and by the end of the anniversary ends up as an LR with an EZA. And he was the first time that they did that. And unfortunately for this guy, he wasn't even good on release. Like, even with his EZA, he just was not good, which was a bit of a shame. Bit of a massive fumble, you could say. But they obviously corrected that issue the next year when they released the physical Roshi for the 6th anniversary. And by the time he got his EZA, he was actually like a top tier like unit in the game, easily the best free to play unit, and was kind of like, he was being run on the optimal Universe 7 team by the end of the anniversary. He was that good. So it's a shame this guy got the short end of the stick, maybe because he was the first one and they just undertuned him for some reason. But I could see him getting a Super EZA during this category, because during this celebration, because he's over 5 years old at this point, right? I mean, I guess in terms of global, he will be 5 years old because the anniversary for global was July, right? So this guy, I think, is very much in line for a Super EZA and would be really good on that new version of a Zamasu team, because, as I say, there are no other units in the game with the same name, so he occupies that unique spot. So obviously they're probably not going to be able to get rid of the finishing blow thing, but essentially just make it so the finishing blow is like a nice little bonus on top, but he's still good without it, and then maybe just throw in some support so that he can end up being what most free-to-play units kind of just end up being. The only thing that they're really useful is that he can end up being a floating support on that team, and as long as he's able to tank normals, floating supports, I can kind of let them off, you know, if they're dying to the biggest boss super attacks, because they're not supposed to be super tanky. But I think something like that could be really, really good for this guy. And then the other thing that I think would be certainly quite interesting, I don't know if his EZA is like too new for this to be a thing, but the free-to-play LR Vegito Blue, because his EZA is like 3 years old, at least in terms of JP. And this guy's EZA was interesting because when it was first announced, people were so underwhelmed and like complained that they actually buffed his EZA, like, because there's very few times that they've done that. So this guy getting a Super EZA, I think, would certainly be very, very good. If we're not getting a new standalone Vegito Blue as well, like if we're getting a fusing Goku and Vegeta or some other kind of superclass character, this guy getting a Super EZA, I think, would be really, really good as well. So Future Saga definitely has a ton of options. Some of the other characters are a bit newer, or I mean, I guess we've got units like this physical LR Trunks, right? Because if now that Gohan is Super EZA'd, if they're not going to go in order, the same meta of those units was Gohan came out first. Then, depending on which version, it was Majin Vegeta and then Broly. And then we have Tech, Goku Black and Zamasu, and Physical Trunks. They were the 70% leads for that yellow coin, like the first set of yellow coin LRs. So either of those guys could Super EZA as well. I mean, Tech, Rose, and Zamasu, like this would be an insane Super EZA if this dropped as part of this celebration. Like, these guys would be so good, because even with the new unit, if it's going to be reversible exchange, even if it was a Rose, this name would be the same, except the "and" would be a plus, so they would have a different name. These guys getting a Super EZA would be absolutely insane, and their EZA is around 3 years old, so I would say it's definitely not impossible for these guys to get a Super EZA as well. So Future Saga has an absolute ton of options, and I think this is the big thing, like, it's what I was trying to argue against with some of the videos that I made, where people were saying that, like, Daima has no EZAs, and that's why we were talking about all the different things like the giant 8 power buffs that we could get and stuff like that. Like, there was definitely a way that they could do a Daima celebration and still drop a bunch of really solid EZAs that do fit the theme. But Future Saga, as you can see, is just prime and waiting with tons of potential EZAs and Super EZAs. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Which are the EZAs and Super EZAs that you think are the most likely? Which are the ones that you most want to see, whether they're the most likely or not? Do let me know all of that down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.